the potential for Belize to go to the ICJ in two separate situations. One is over the territorial dispute with Guatemala, and then separate from that, and as a second possible case, is looking at the maritime boundary with Guatemala. But in ocean delimitation, the land is most important. The land dominates the sea, so you must have the territorial dispute sorted out with Guatemala first. So the first thing I went over was briefly looking at Guatemala's claim, and I don't see any basis for it in international law. And the key reason for my analysis is the international right of self-determination, and the whole basis of that is that people should be governed by their consent. And the whole southern area of Belize, it's possessed and occupied by Belize and with Belizeans there, rather than occupied by Guatemala. And to my mind, Guatemala's claim is something that's inconsistent with the way the world has been going for many decades, with not having colonial powers anymore and countries becoming actually splitting rather than taking over other countries. So one recent example is Sudan. It had South Sudan split away from the rest of Sudan. So the fact that the Belize has been independent for more than 30 years and is recognised as a fully fledged member state of the United Nations and is recognised worldwide in that state, I can't imagine any of the older, stranger arguments put by Guatemala from very early treaties being given a lot of attention by an international court. So to my mind, Belize has no reason to fear the ICJ in the territorial dispute.
Okay, but those people who have fear, who are saying Belize should not go to the ICJ, they're saying, other than it's being unpatriotic, they use the same reasons that you're giving to go to the ICJ, saying because we have boundaries, because we have treaties, because we have independence and recognition. They're saying we should just ignore it, we just negotiate.
Yeah, look, I understand that completely. On the one hand, you can look at if you go to the ICJ, there's a risk, I think a very, very small risk of losing when the situation is on the ground that Belize has complete control of all that disputed territory. My guess is there's two possible ways there'd be a benefit for Belize to go to the ICJ on this, and that is whether it creates more certainty with ownership of the southern areas of Belize, so you can develop that area as you see fit. But the second area is you need to have absolute confirmation of where the land boundary is, where it touches the sea. You need to have that sorted out to then move on to having defining the boundary with Guatemala in the ocean. And so if the land boundary issue is resolved, and I imagine it be resolved with the boundary where it is now, then that is a firm basis for then arguing for the Belize claim to the ocean off the coast there.
Looking at the legal opinion, I don't know if you've read it also, but it seems, at least when it comes to maritime, that is the only area that there is a give and take of where we could lose or gain.
Yes, that's right. And the way I'd see it playing out is two separate cases. So one is if you cannot reach agreement with Guatemala where the land boundary is, and that seems to be the point of contention, then that can be a matter for the ICJ, and I guess I'll confirm that the boundary where it is at the moment. The second issue is how to work out the boundary at sea, and there are two ways of doing this. The first way is simply have an agreement with Guatemala. The second way is if there cannot be an agreement with Guatemala, both Belize and Guatemala can agree to send it off to a third-party dispute mechanism, such as the ICJ or the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. And this is where things get a bit more murky, because the principles for working out sovereignty over land are far more clear-cut than the issues dealing with maritime boundaries at sea.